Oh, legends, yes. Let's go, legends. Come on. Make sure to destroy that like button. We'll be analyzing the situation for Bitcoin. All-time high, baby. Altcoin season. Let's moon, baby. Or shall we be cautious with what could happen in the next coming days, guys? How's everybody doing? Make sure to destroy that like button if you do enjoy the content. Let's go through the comment section. Say hello to the beautiful community. Let's put some background music here. And we'll be diving here on the price of Bitcoin, where we are at the moment. Local time frame, still very choppy, very kind of corrective price action, like we were mentioning here throughout yesterday, right? Very likely to claim the highs, still continuing to claim the highs, okay? No major rejection. We did hit a major level of resistance. One of my favorite levels of resistance. It is the 0.88 Fibonacci retracement. That is exactly where we did manage to hit right there. Already getting a pullback of $1,000 for a quick little scalp for all of those aggressive, traders out there. Obviously, you should be taking profit if you did take this aggressive short. There's no sign of weakness. And all of these consolidations that we are forming throughout the last few days are still extremely corrective. What's going on? What's going on, Bitcoin? All-time high it is, right? No big major pullbacks, no first initial signs of weakness to maybe go to lower levels. So it's just ranging, uptrending, Claim the highs it is, right? For the moment, do we have a sign of weakness just yet? Well, we are at the last level, right? I want to talk about this level, which is very important. Then we'll dive in through the local scenarios, local levels, and possible trading setups. That's why you're here, right? That's what we like to do on the channel. We look for local trading setups, right? Where could there be a long position? Where could there be a short position? But very high probability, right? If we can't find the high probability trading setups, then we won't get into any trade, basically, right here locally. So an initial scalp short trade was very acceptable at the 0.88. We love the 0.88 because most of the times it does get a reaction. And by reaction, it means a possible pullback of a few $100s, maybe 1,000, maybe 5,000, right? But overall, the reaction for all of those aggressive traders, we are maintaining uptrend momentum. The main reason why the 0.88 is so beautiful, well, we can go through, you know, the price action that we do. Let's see if there's loads, because my goodness, what's going on? What's going on? Tradingview not playing ball today. Come on, Tradingview. Let's go through the comment section as this does load up and say hello to the beautiful community. Man, I'm slow. I'm very, very slow. Tradingview is slow. I'm slow. I'm sorry, legends. Pac-Man, my man, much love to you, brother. Terry, good morning. Like button hit. Guys, as much as we love Bitcoin and we like local trading setups for Bitcoin, we need to take a look at altcoins. I'm not the best altcoin technical analyst out there. I like very OG cryptos. You can see on the thumbnail here, we have Solana, we have ADA, we have XRP, all of these new AI cryptos, right? I'm not really in the game for them, but we can do the TA. And we need to talk about your favorite altcoin, of course, all right, later on as we do analyze Bitcoin. No sound. Let me know if there is sound. What's happening? Bad stream. All good now. All good. Okay, sorry. My bad, guys. Same lagging did the other day also. Okay, Fernando, let me know if the stream's good. Let me double check here the connection. Everything should be okay. All right. It seems like it's okay now. Let me know, guys, in the comment section. Trump coin, please. Ooh, Trump coin. What's Trump coin doing? Dog with hat is doing amazing. We can see that. Trump coin. How is Trump coin doing? We need to analyze Bitcoin, of course, guys. Okay. First of all, official Trump. We can take a look at this one later on. Okay. But most importantly, Bitcoin. Getting the choppiness at a major resistance. Quick go through the comment section. Tau chart XRP will flip Ethereum 100%, says Fred Sloan. Your videos are the best. Gaming, thank you very much. I think they're far away from being the best. Okay, there's a lot of good content out there and analysts out there. I try to do my best. Today, internet slow for me too in Dubai. Okay, very interesting. My man in Dubai. Stream seems good. Pac-Man, much love to you, brother. I hope you're doing absolutely wonderful. The same to the rest of the community watching this stream at the moment. Make sure to refresh the stream, see if it's okay. Today, internet is slow in Dubai. When I see your video, I also learn about crypto. My man gaming, much love to you. A little bit of hype at the moment, right? Altcoin season, beginning stages, guys. Bitcoin's got the rally, almost hitting all-time high. We are seeing the altcoin index, right? The altcoin season index also getting here to, where do I have it? Right over here. Right, we're getting that initial stage of can we get to altcoin season? It's been Bitcoin season for the last few weeks, and now altcoins are starting to pick up. The main question, is it a trap? Forget the trap. We've had a massive downfall for lots of cryptos throughout the last few months. It is time for the reversal. We like it or not, right? Regardless if we don't believe it or not, it is time. The time is now. Especially when we consider the crypto sentiment, guys, it is down the toilet, okay? The search for crypto on Google, still extremely low. In November and December, we can see that spike, right? Look at the spike here in November and December. That was the top when retail was searching on Google and social media about crypto. Then that was the top, legends. Retail, such as, you know, supposedly we are retail, right? But there's going to be more retail jumping in the next coming months. And that's when we want to be really getting out of the market, right? When we consider these altcoins, right? So retail's far away from being in. Altcoins, we're starting to pick up here on altcoin search. We can see in November, December, we had the spike. We were very much aware of stay cautious now, legends. I'm taking profits on some altcoins such as Constellation, DAG, Fowler Network, right? While the rest of the people were still hyping up the biggest bull run in 2025 and not aware of the pullback. And of course, now we've had the pullback, starting to see a recovery. We want to be cautious based on the technical analysis on Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin decides to create a pullback, which makes a lot of sense, guys. It does make sense. We're hitting resistance. We don't have an initial sign of weakness yet, okay? Hitting resistance doesn't mean that there is a sign of weakness, and we are very likely going to get a pullback, okay? I do explain this on many videos. We need to see some initial volume to the downside and an impulsive structure to the downside when we hit these resistance levels, okay? For the moment, we don't see any of that, right? This is why the last few days we were saying very likely that we do claim the highs and claim the highs again and again and again, because we've been rejecting in a very corrective way on the lower time frame. And this is super important, right, to realize, because a lot of people want to get into short positions. I'm going to give a valid short here to the 0.88. The 0.88 was a valid scalp, okay, as a swing failure pattern. You treat it as a swing failure pattern, basically, right? You get above the 0.88 Fibonacci and you do reject down to the base of the uptrend where you take profit, right? We're talking about movements of 1,000, 1,500. That's fine for a great little scalp short position. Big resistance level, the 0.88. We love the 0.88. I like to call it the second golden pocket. It's the second golden pocket, right? You got the first golden pocket right over here. Major reaction and a little pullback here. And then the 0.88 Fibonacci also getting over $1,000 of a rejection. Now, the question is, will we reject a few $1,000s in the next coming days after hitting this level? Because this level, and you got this perfect range right over here to give you the example of the 0.88 Fibonacci. From the all-time high right over here in 2024 to the pivot low, 0.88 rejection, right? Reaction, rejection, came back up to retest it, but overall getting a major pullback. When you take a look at the latest high and the latest low, you got the same thing. The 0.88 seems like to be an interesting barrier, right? Before you actually claim the highs. This is the moment where you think, hey, that's it, guys. We're just a couple of $1,000 away. This is it. New all-time highs, a new breakout, and then the price rejects at the 0.88. This is it. This is the breakout of the trend. We're going to reach the highs, 0.88 rejection. So we are getting a little bit of that dancing momentum. We hit the 0.88 just early this morning. 𝗕𝗏𝘆𝗽 in the Legends trading community was already pointing out about the rejection at the 0.88. We love that level, guys. We love the level, all right, approaching the 0.88 right over here. And that, most of the times, does get a rejection. And it can be a local high, right? So, yeah, 𝗕𝗏𝘆𝗽 getting into that short position. Also, as a scalp, okay, could it reject to lower levels? Absolutely. You can leave some of the position open, be defensive. But the question is, do we continue longing the pullbacks here, right? Do we continue longing the pullbacks in this little range? We need to talk about that, right? But just so you understand the major resistance that we are in at the moment, and the price is getting a reaction. We're getting a reaction at the value area high, getting a reaction at the 0.88 Fibonacci. And in the past, this level has been getting some decent pullbacks, right? For the moment, it only pulled back $1,000. Do we get into an intraday long position here to claim the highs again? We need to focus on the lower time frame, right? Anybody that has been following up throughout the last few days, we need to analyze here, the higher probability scenario when you hit such a crucial level of resistance, especially forming a very easy to see 5-wave structure to the upside, right? We cannot deny that we can see a 5-wave impulsive move to the upside. This, regardless of the pullback or not, is bullish, right? It's a bullish movement to the upside. Regardless of any pullback that could happen, you know, it would be we would be looking for either buying more Bitcoin or getting into longs on Bitcoin as well. Yeah, it's not that we haven't hit resistance only, says Freeman, is that we haven't had a major pullback either. Can you take a look at like only one? Thanks, mate. Yeah, my man Stan, we'll be taking a look at some altcoins later on, okay? Well, let's just quick take a look at that because it's a super chat. We're going to take a look at some altcoins that I want to talk about also on the stream. What is this one? Let me just take a look at the ticker symbol. Like. Only one. Whew. Yeah, I'm not sure what this crypto is, but this one was here on the previous cycle. And the chart looks pretty damn good if you ask me that it is bottoming out here. It does look like that it is bottoming out. You revisited the last lower high. That's a good sign. So you got the bearish market structure with lower highs and lower lows here. Very clear downtrend. And now, just in the last, few days, last week actually, we did manage to reclaim this last lower high, breaking a bit of the structure. Okay, so that is definitely a good sign. We're just getting a little bit of a pullback. When we do take a look at this one on the lower time frame, yeah, this one ideally does get another low. Ideally does create another low and bounces out of this resistance. Okay, we're talking about only one coin. It's called only one. This zone would be the major level of interest just because you can see how it's also moved up in a very 5-wave structure here. You got a deep pullback already retracing to the wave 4, which is usually when you get that reaction bounce. But it would be nice, this is very one wavy, it would be nice to actually dip down below one more time beneath this zone. But this structure that we've had in the last couple of weeks has broken the downtrend and it looks very impulsively, right? We haven't got any indicators, no moving averages. We don't need any of that rubbish. We just look at the price action market structure and where the prices usually like to retrace, right? You can see that retracement from that higher low of that potential wave 4, where it's just swept up that low and it got a major bounce. Of course, this major bounce where it's getting the reaction is at the golden pocket. Without looking at the Fibonacci, I was wrong there. It's 50% Fibonacci. Did look like the golden pocket was around about this region. But it would be nice for this one to get a 3-wave structure. Get down beneath this low one more time and find that support in this box right over here, these highs. That would be the best option. That would be a perfect impulsive move with a 3-wave structure. And then this is the zone where you're looking to hold as support, consolidate, and then you're interested in the longs, right? To get that next leg to the upside. Keeping it very, very simple and easy on this one. Anyway, that was just a quick look. It does look bullish. Like the structure, would be nice for one more low, if I'm honest with you here, just to form a 3-wave structure. Let's go through Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Then we go through the comment section. Major reaction at a major resistance. We've seen that the 0.88, right? Technical analysis, fib levels. We know based on history, right, that they do get those reactions, right? And this is the best example here from this previous range, 0.88, also the value area high of this range, getting that major reaction pullback. Is this time different? Are we just in a massive bullish trend here? It's too hypey. The price is too bullish, and we are just looking at a 3rd wave to still not be completed, right? We are inside of the 3rd wave, and it's just no pullbacks, guys. This is it. The hype is real, and most commonly you would get a pullback at least to the 0.382 Fibonacci. This pullback was relatively shallow. This one was shallow. This one is still shallow if you're just going to consolidate here and continue to the upside, right? This is just a very, very bullish market structure. We're hitting some resistance, but we're not getting the initial leg to the downside, right? And if you want to be a sniper trade, you need to do it at the levels that you need to do it, right? For example, the 0.88 Fibonacci. You know, you can get into a sniper trade only if you reject from the 0.88 Fibonacci. And, you know, some of the legends did get into that 0.88 touch. Also, 𝗕𝗏𝘆𝗽 looking at the 0.88 Fibonacci. And this is only a scalp, okay? This is not, okay? People do confuse day trading, right? Trading setups regarding for shorts or longs. That, oh, you know, you're shorted here and then we're getting up here, you're getting wrecked, right? Why are you shorting? This is only an intraday position. It's only an intraday position. A lot of people do struggle to understand that, right? We look at intraday possible shorts and longs, okay? Most of the positions here in this range were long positions just because the entire move was very, very corrective. And throughout yesterday's stream, we analyzed the price action, and the highs were very, very likely to be taken and hit that 0.88 Fibonacci when we were trading in this zone, okay? Because this did not look impulsive. It looked very corrective. The price did move to the 0.88 Fibonacci. If you do hit the 0.88 Fibonacci, you know, it's very, very common that what you're forming is a larger correction. And finally, you're going to take out the highs, right? Which we did. And then we got another movement to the upside early this morning, claiming the highs again, right? So no major impulsive moves down. They're just quick corrections. But at the end of the day, this is still looking very three-wavy, right? Okay, if we were to form a very aggressive move to the downside here, and you know, you need to give the chance here for a double 1-2 for the moment still. But if this were to be a strong rejection for a larger pullback in the next coming days, what you want to see when you form your first initial breakdown, your first initial rejection, after the bounce, you want to see kind of a third wave. Get a move down that's very aggressive, right? And then this entire structure becomes a possible local top. We haven't seen that. We had an initial sign here on the lower time frames that did get the rejection at the fib levels and tested the lows, right? This is something that we mentioned on a stream. You know, this has the chance in breaking down after forming a lower high. But it didn't, right? It did not form that breakdown, so entirely corrective. So this is the thing right now, looking at the local time frame. If the price were to be bearish, right, bearish, well, we're looking for a correction. We should have had an epic breakdown from this low. The moment you break down and you start chopping in this range, you know, and overlapping this pivot, this is unlikely to be an impulsive move down. Okay, so, you know, when you break down from the first movement with high volume, you want the next one to follow through and get a big move down, right? Break the uptrend structure and get a high volume move to the downside, right? And then preferably you're looking for your wave 4 and then another low. This hasn't happened yet. This hasn't happened, right? We're still kind of uptrending here. We're uptrending, just hit that support. Can we give the chance for the bears here to form a double 1-2? That's something that we want to be cautious about. What will be very interesting to jump into another long position, okay, is claiming these lower highs. Claiming these lower highs of today. For me, it would be highly unlikely that we formed an ABC flat and then we're going to roll down. These lower highs right there are perfect to get a rejection, a possible rejection. But what I would be interested is in the pullback to just jump into another long position to attempt to hit the highs again and maybe break out. So we need a little bit of information here for the, you know, high probability trading setup. For the moment, we are uptrending. I would give the chance for the bears for a larger pullback right now, just because we got an aggressive move down. We got the pump, we got the bounce, we got another leg down. A double 1-2 scenario is always an option. It's always an option. For this to be invalidated, we would have to claim the lower highs that we formed today, sitting at 104,700. Now, if these lower highs are claimed, you have high probability that this movement to the downside is another correction, just like this one right over here, a bit of a three-waver, right? A bit of a three-waver move here, claiming the highs. You look to claim the highs every single time when you understand the movements here to the downside. So claiming these lower highs, what will tell us is that this rejection that we had from the 0.88 Fibonacci is likely to be corrective, and that you are on the initial stages to claim the highs again, just like we have been doing, right? Throughout the last few weeks, right? Not even days, last few weeks. So it looks interesting here for the bullish case. All right. We did get a pretty steep pullback. Do you want to, this would have been an acceptable long liquidity grab of the low, right? Because it is a liquidity game at the end of the day, right? You sweep up the highs, you get the rejection. You sweep up some local lows, you get the bounce. If you missed on long in here or missed on shorting here, for me, there is no short down here eventually. Okay, I would rather be interested in the long positions to reclaim the highs again, right? This is it, guys. Top, big pullback. Not yet, right? Not yet. If we would have broken down here, and then get the bounce, and we form this kind of structure, then I would have said, yeah, a possibility of a lower high here forming is very, very likely. With this three-wave structure and already not breaking down aggressively, it's telling me that this is still bullish, right? We still, trend is your friend. This is still on, uptrend momentum. Unless you got into a sniper trade at the 0.88 and you're taking profit here, realizing that this is looking corrective and it's not looking impulsive. Anybody that took shorts at the 0.88, you need to take profit here, right? This ain't a short to hold to $74,000. It's a scalp. Interested in another intraday long setup here. Let's take a look at the session VWAP, because that's probably going to do a big role right now. Yeah, session VWAP. Just by sweeping up these highs. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I mean, this would be a very aggressive scalp short, right? This would be an aggressive scalp short, sweep up the local highs. We know that we are uptrending, right? Any game here that you play on a short, it would rather be better, a major level of resistance and an SFP. If you, the bearish case scenario here would be an ABC flat, where you claim the local lower highs and then you roll over. But, we are uptrending very strongly still. And if you are betting into an ABC flat for a short on a major uptrend, the probabilities are slightly against you, right? Let's leave it that way. So I would rather see the highs being swept, okay? It could be, if it does just sweep up this lower high that we did form today, I would say, it's a possible SFP. Just considering even the flat, okay? Even the flat scenario, or it could be a bullish sign. Very, very aggressive intraday scalp short. But if you do take this high, I would rather be interested in the pullback for a long position, because that is just understanding this local structure. Okay, the only bearish case scenario that you would have is an ABC flat, okay? Because you formed a very three-wave structure. And if you claim the lower high from the possible impulse, the only scenario, the only bearish case scenario that you have is that you formed an ABC flat, which is highly unlikely, right? This is like really going against the trend. So not the best scenario, if you ask me, right? Not the best scenario. I would rather jump into a long position to have an attempt to claim the highs again, because that's what we consistently doing, right? If you jump into long positions, throughout the last few days on all of the pullbacks, well, you're taking profit at the highs. It's like it's a winning game, right? It's a consistent winning game when you're moving with the trend. So would rather, instead of looking for shorts, which we don't have any sign of weakness still, I'd rather look for longs to have an attempt in maybe take out the high. And where the probabilities increase for this move is actually sweeping up the lower highs, because you're no longer in a local bearish structure. This has been a corrective move, just like all of these ones right over here. And of course, if you do break out from here, you might get a little reaction after sweeping up the lows, sweeping up the lower highs, sorry. The corrective move is going to be looking very interesting, right? You're looking for that higher low to be formed in this region. Okay, 50% golden pocket most commonly, to then get a higher low and attempt to hit new highs on the price of Bitcoin. So let's see if we do claim the highs here. Speculating right now in a short is just not the greatest option. We know what's happened here, right? If you're speculating on a lower high, as you get these pumps, you're uptrending, right? Trends is your friend. So if you want to speculate on the VWAP for a short or a lower high here, right? You know, basically a swing failure pattern from these highs, you know that the probabilities are against you. And the main reason why is because of this uptrend, right? So we kind of don't want to do that. This is not the greatest short scalp there is at the moment, because you basically shorting into a major uptrend. And to speculate on a lower high when you're uptrending, despite that you have some highs right there, only for the aggressive traders, I would say that that's a quick SFP from 104,700. But it's kind of not worth it, right? Why the hell would you short in this region when you're in an uptrend where you have high probability and taking out the highs? It's just not a good trade, right? Despite that you have the VWAP and you have the lower highs. So what would make more sense here in this uptrend to really see a new high being formed is claiming those lower highs, right? Potentially in the next coming hours, next coming minutes. And then the pullback would be looking very interesting, because then I realized that this movement to the downside, instead of being a strong rejection in an impulsive wave, it's a three-wave structure. It's a kind of confirmed three-wave structure because you've broken out from the last lower high. So that, you know, that would be a good setup here to get another leg up to claim the highs. So let's see if that does happen. You know, that's an interesting long day trade that I would get into. What you need to be aware of is they double 1-2, right? That doesn't mean that we need to claim the highs, and you know, we could form a lower high here and revisit the lows. That's where it's going to be a little bit more tricky. Okay, because you have the bearish case scenario, double 1-2, and then 3. And then 4-5, 4-5, you're possibly forming an A wave here. Then you'll get the bounce, right? In the next, you know, coming hours, 1 to 2 days. Or you have the contracting diagonal, right? Where you may double bottom from this region, and then you have that contracting move. And then the bounce here could be really looked at very, very carefully. That's if you revisit the lows and get a bounce. Then I would say, yeah, this zone does look interesting for the short trade. But for the moment, three-wave structure, you claim the lower highs of today, then high probability that we do continue to the upside. So yeah, a little bit of information that we need to have here, because we only have a three-wave move down. As we do have a three-wave move down, you can count this as corrective. You swept up these local lows, so it makes sense for the price to recover in a uptrend, right? We're just moving with the price action. So yeah, let's go. Just keeping it simple here, guys. No indicators, no nothing, right? It's just realizing the trend and realizing the, you know, the movement down that looks corrective instead of impulsive. So with that theory, we just continue the trend. Let's go through the comment section, say hello to the beautiful community. I want to take a look at some altcoins. Aditya, Rach, my man, much love to you guys. If you do enjoy the content, the analysis, the education, looking for possible high probability setups, right? Because anybody can look for setups, long, shorts, whatever. We look for high probability, right? We're here to win day trading setups. We're not here to just say, you know, this is a good long, this is a good short. I have to say that a sweep of these lows is kind of an aggressive, you know, swing failure pattern, right? We do know it's a liquidity game, right? So if you're in an uptrend and you revisit the last higher lows, you know that you can swing failure pattern. So, I mean, this was the aggressive long entry, or this was the aggressive short position. As we are in the middle of the uptrend, well, you would speculate that there is a higher chance to just push up here because we're uptrending. So it would be pretty strange to look for a short position in this range, even though I know a reaction is possible based on the local lower highs and the VWAP. But I would be more interested not in catching that short trade SFP. I would be more interested in focusing on a long position here, realizing that this downtrend has failed to, you know, to basically have a bearish correction, right? A bearish impulsive move down. And this would be the point of failure for the bears, which does look like very much it wants to revisit that zone, which would give us a good clear sign that we're likely going to correct and claim the highs at least, and then give a chance for the bulls to revisit new highs. Okay, so the intraday setup here would be this one. After claiming these highs, we'll be interested in that pullback if we do get it. The only levels here was a short here or a long position from here. But in the middle of the zone, we need a little bit of more information, right? VWAP and that lower high would be too aggressive. You know, I think it's not worth a shot in an uptrend to speculate on a lower high just for a small pullback of a few $100s, unless you're going to be fast and quick getting into the rejection of that lower high. I would rather look for a higher low in this case, understanding that this movement down does not look bearish and it looks corrective, and we've got that chance of forming a higher low at least to visit the highs, TP1, and then we'll take it from there. Price action, easy peasy, waiting here. Patience is the key for successful trading. So we need a little bit of more information. Okay, at this moment, there is no local trading setups for me. Good short setup here today at the 0.88 as 𝗬𝗍𝘆 provided in the Legends trading community. Okay, possible good rejection at the 0.88 Fibonacci, which we just wicked and moved down over $1,000. All for the aggressive scalpers. Let's go through the comment section. Say hello to the beautiful community. I'm going to set some alerts here on Bitcoin just for the intraday setups. And we need to take a look at some altcoins. Okay, so let's set up the alert here at the highs. And we'll also set some alerts at the lows, even though the lows could be a breakdown, right? I wouldn't be extremely interested in getting into a double bottom here. Just being aware of the double 1-2. It would make sense because this second 1-2 would be smaller, which is what we want to see in a double 1-2. So this would be a dangerous level, in my opinion, just in case you get the breakdown. If you do get that reaction, it could be a contracting diagonal and you could get the bounce to sweep up these highs. It would be an aggressive long. I've set the alert, and if one of the alerts are triggered, then we can analyze that intraday scalp setup. This would be a risky one, of course, right? Because we know that if you do lose an uptrend and if you form a double 1-2, you know, then you can get that breakdown finally here. So it would be a little bit of a risky attempt. I mean, if you SFP, you can always attempt it. Just be very defensive. You know, it might form that contracting diagonal. Very much a possibility. But would be very aware of the double 1-2 and getting a third wave down, right? And we know when the price wants to drop, it will drop very aggressively, right? For the moment, still bullish. no reasons to believe that we are going to get a big move down. So just waiting patiently for our levels to be hit and analyze the local intraday trading setups, guys. Remember that on weeks you got an awesome bonus up to $30,000 deposit bonus, more different perks here as you can read, and also Bluffin right now is giving $300, okay, when you deposit $2,000. So if you deposit $2K, you're getting $300 on top of that, so you can use more capital for your trading. All of the profits that you make can be withdrawn, not the bonus, because this is to increase your capital, guys. You get all of these perks with the second and third link down below in the description for weeks, or also for Bluffin, where you have Bitcoin and many other different altcoins. So let's see here on the higher time frame on Bitcoin, it's pretty damn clear. I want to sell more Bitcoin, but I'm not, because the price is bullish and there's no signs of weakness just yet, even though we are hitting resistance. But I want to sell more Bitcoin to buy altcoins. And to make a 2x on Bitcoin from all of my Bitcoin holdings, it needs to go to $200,000, right? We might not even see that in this cycle. But to make a 2x or 3x on some altcoins, it can be relatively easy and fast, right? And this is why we want to take into consideration, hey, altcoin season, we're going to see, we already seen some major pumps on some altcoins. And I do have a nice few altcoins, right? A few altcoins that I do see making some pretty nice moves in the next coming weeks, right? Not even months. ICP is one of them. ICP is already getting a rally here. Small little rally. I mean, this is still soon, guys. When it's not soon is when you get the parabolic move, right? When you're in the initial stages of the pump, it's still soon. When you get this pump already, then I would say, yeah, it's not worth getting in. But this is still soon, right? Still soon. Once you get that movement, right, in the next coming weeks, regardless with a correction or not, when you start moving like this, then I would say this is not the moment, guys. You always need to be aware that it could be a lower high, right? So yeah, we want to be in these altcoins before the pump, before the big major pump breakout. Anyway, 𝗬𝗫 network, Constellation DAG, this one always lags behind by a week or a couple of weeks. This one got an awesome move to the upside of 4x. It did a 4x here in just a matter of a couple of weeks. This one's early. This one's still early. It's just in this ascending triangle. And in my opinion, it's about to pop. Of course, it all really depends on Bitcoin. And this is what I don't like about altcoins, that a lot of them are looking like they're going to get, they're popping out and they're going to continue rallying. And then you get Bitcoin getting a correction of 5 or 10%, right? I wouldn't say, well, even though if it's 5-6%, altcoins will get that pullback with Bitcoin, most of them. Some of them will do their own thing, not many, but most of them will get that pullback. And that's what I'm really concerned about when we, take a look at the altcoins, because we're building up this hype. We can see it throughout all social media, altcoin season, even myself. But as I analyze Bitcoin and I realize that we are at resistance and that we could pull back a few $1,000s, the altcoins will get that pullback as well. But that will be the moment, okay? That will be the moment to really dive in. I will be doing lots of altcoin reviews and where there's good buying opportunities, just like we've done in the past with Constellation DAG, 𝗬𝗫 network, Chainlink accumulation. This was 2 years ago already. I'm still holding my Chainlink bags. Was buying here every single week. And eventually this is a good buying zone, right? It's a good, it's only a 2x, right? In 2 years, but hey, 100% in 2 years return, that's great. It did get up to 300-400% when it was above $30 for a few days. But did not take profit, still holding this one for the long term, right? But we realize here where there's good levels to buy up. And of course, we have the other cryptos. So we are going to be very, very careful throughout the next coming weeks, understanding that a pullback, which, you know, can really make people doubt about the altcoin season. That's what I want to see. You know, we are at the possible beginning stages, but what we need to understand is where Bitcoin is. Big, higher time frame resistance, and we do have a possible completed 5-wave structure. I can tell you already that the pullback, if it does happen, right, it can be pretty aggressive, right? Usually you would get down to the 4th wave zone, which is the mid 90K levels. So that would be about a 10% pullback. Altcoins are really going to take that hit, right? Altcoins will get that 10, 15, 20% pullback if Bitcoin does get that movement down. But that will be the moment to step in, right? That will be the best moment to step in on the altcoins, right? Everybody's going to be surprised about, hey, what's going on? We're dumping, right? Well, it's just really understanding where Bitcoin is at the moment, which is a very, very tricky level, right? You know, you've got the extreme bullish case scenario, which would be rare, I have to say. If this is a 1-1-2 scenario and we're still in the 3rd wave, okay? We're still developing the 3rd wave here, which can be possible. We've got a 1st wave from the 3rd wave, and we are developing the 3rd wave inside of the 3rd wave, which can be pretty insane in the next coming days, right? It just continues rallying with very, very shallow pullbacks as we've been having. You need to give, you know, the possibility for this scenario. But you would need to lean on the highest probability move. Highest probability move would be a completion of a 5-wave move, right? And then the next higher probability move would be still in that 3rd wave. You need to give advantage to a completed 5-wave before speculating on a 1-1-2 and that you are in a 3rd wave still, right? And it's just going to explode. I mean, why not, right? Why not? This is the moment that we've been waiting for, right? For massive bull run, hit all-time highs and go beyond that. You know, maybe it is the moment, right? That it just is extremely bullish. However, we need to understand, you know, the different probabilities. The probabilities that we do get choppiness at this range, which we are. So we are getting the resistance. On the lower time frame, as explained, we're not getting any major breakdown in a 5-wave structure. This is still highly corrective. So what we look at is very likely to revisit the highs, right? When you move down in a 3-wave move from a rejection, right? It's a big level. It is a big level, but you need to understand that, you know, claiming the highs again as we're uptrending is the highest probability. So till proven otherwise, right? Till proven otherwise, and proven otherwise would be getting a steep move down, right? That looks pretty aggressive, which we haven't got yet. So for the moment, we need to give a little bit of high probability on this finished 5th wave structure. Of course, we can wick above the highs a few more times. It doesn't matter. But overall, looking at a 5th wave to be completed here very, very soon, regardless of how many times we claim the local highs, and then get a nice pullback before we continue to the upside. And of course, the most bullish case scenario that might be the case here for Bitcoin. And it's pretty funny because when you think about when you think about retail is not in here, it's pretty damn crazy, right? The search Bitcoin, nobody cares about Bitcoin being at all-time high. It's pretty damn crazy how social risk it's been at 0 in the last few weeks. People are not interested, right? So that brings you the conclusion that Bitcoin is even more bullish. And if we were to break above all-time high and get to $120,000, $130,000 in the coming weeks, you know, is that going to be the moment where we are going to start seeing Google Trends, social risk, people talking about this. You're going to get friends, you know, calling you or sending you a message about Bitcoin. You know, are we going to go to a 200K, $1 million, right? That's what we want to see. We want to see an increase right over here. And that's when we want to be worried about, okay, you know, maybe it is time to take significant profits, right? When you have your friends calling up, right? Or sending you WhatsApps saying, hey, man, you know, what's the next altcoin that can pump because I missed Bitcoin? Well, that's probably, you know, getting close to the top, right? So we need that euphoric moment. And you know, this is why this is very much a possibility. You know, the thing of giving a possibility to this multiple 1-2 setup and this just exploding in the next coming weeks, continuing to break up here with no pullbacks, is because of the social risk and the you know, the retail that are not interested, retail not being interested. Look at the little pump that we had here in November, right? Which was getting close to the highs, not on Bitcoin, mainly on altcoins, right? November, December of 2024 was the moment where we got a major rally on altcoins, some of them doing a 4x, 5, 6x, right? Bitcoin pumping aggressively. You're starting getting people very interested, right? Very, very interested. Well, that was the top. As soon as, you know, retail came in, we've been downtrending on most of, you know, not only Bitcoin and altcoins, Bitcoin in January and altcoins also in December. So this is like a perfect indicator to consider taking profit, right? When you get retail and you get big interest, you know, that is the moment to be very much wary. And because this is close to zero, it gives you that explosive breakout, right? Just get the movement, because this is an institutional game and institutions do want the retail liquidity to come in, right? I mean, this is just an interesting fact here. So we are going to give that possible massive breakout a chance here. And for the moment, despite hitting resistance, there is no big signs of weakness. I mean, unless you're a sniper and you want to be that guy that shorts the highs, this was your option, right? This was your option. For all of those people that want to get into shorts, we need a confirmation. And a confirmation would be literally, a significant pullback down with some increased volume to the downside. And then eventually the bounce will be very, very interesting to analyze, of course, right? To look for a lower high, regardless if it's going to be an ABC three-wave structure or if it's going to be an impulsive move down, right? Which, by the looks of things, we're not having any of this for the moment. But your best option, anybody that wants to, I shorted the high. If you wanted to short the high of a possible larger pullback, right, in the next coming weeks, then the 0.88 was your option. We did talk about the 0.88 Fibonacci on yesterday's stream. As we were trading yesterday on the live stream in this range, the highest probability was to claim the highs again, because all of this movement was looking corrective and we hit the 0.88 Fibonacci and we are uptrending, right? There was no sign of weakness. So claiming the highs again, based on yesterday's stream, was the highest probability on this local uptrend, right? And the option, anybody that wants into an aggressive short, the 0.88 is your option, right? We do take a look at 0.88 Fibonacci a lot of the times. And if you want to really get into a high, you need to treat it as a swing failure pattern, right? You tap it, you reject from it, you got a couple of minutes to decide if you want to get into that short, and then you're in this movement down. But if you wanted to short here, it's not a great idea, right? It's not a great idea. You want to be defensive with your funds, right? And if you're shorting here, you need to realize that this is still uptrending and that the movement down is not an explosive rejection, right? In a 5-wave structure with high volume. Yeah, not that much volume. Very 3-wavy. So yeah, for all of those people that want to get into a short with high probability, you can get into a short right now. You might be lucky that it might roll down. You can get into a long because, you know, for the moment, longing an uptrend makes more sense. But I need a little bit of more information. For my next trade. Right? So yeah, not much more here to be said on this range. Let's talk about. Let's go through the comment section. It is about time to go through comment section. That's not an indicator anymore. Trump coin release was the time to sell. Very true, my man. No one cares. It's at all-time high because no one has spare capital. Here in the UK, we are being taxed into poverty. I know, my man. Also in Spain, this is why I needed to run away from Europe in general because, yeah, they will bleed you to death, which is not good, right? It's not good. I'm happy in paying tax, but pay 15%, 20%. Don't pay 50%. What's all this about paying 50% of your income? You know, we gone crazy here. Yeah, that's not happening, especially when, you know, you see the improvements of the country. And, you know, in Spain, the improvements haven't been too great in the last decade. I can tell you that. So, yeah, if I'm paying to a country that there's massive improvements, so with social security, right, with health, with public transport, the roads, cleanness of the streets, then I'm happy to pay, you know, pay taxes. But, you know, we know there's a lot of countries in Europe that are very corrupt. And, you know, there's a funny story about the current president in Spain, which is Pedro Sánchez. A few years ago, he got a private jet and stayed at luxury hotel. I think this was in London, and I think he spent over $200,000, 200,000 euros, I think it was actually, in a 3-day trip. A 3-day trip. He paid $200,000. A 3-day trip, right? Damn, this president is living his life, right? You go to London for 3 days, luxury hotel, private transport. I understand that that's all good, but hey, come on. You know, say $10,000 for 3 days. Well, and that's already good. But $200,000 out of tax money just to have just to visit London for whatever meeting or whatever. Yeah, screw that. You know, no way. Anyway, just a little story that I wanted to say that about the president of Spain, not former one, the one that's there actually. So, we Brazilians pay 35% of GDP. Very sad. Yeah, I mean, it's unfair, right? We're dumping. Let's take a look. Some alerts getting set right there. Not quite claiming the lows. Not quite claiming the lows here. Yeah, we do have a high volume node at this zone, which eventually, if we lose it, we have been bouncing there throughout the last 24 hours. Eventually, if we lose this level, I would look at a reclaim of the lows, but we'll be breaking a bit of uptrend. So it is going to be a little bit of a cheeky movement down. It can be a cheeky movement down. We need to be aware of the 1-1-2 scenario. 1-1-2 to get a larger pullback. And then 3-4-5, 4-5, right? The next big zone would be the higher lows of this major uptrend. That's a very, very interesting level. Let's take a look at previous week highs and previous week close. Oh yeah, we're not managing to get above the previous week levels. Yeah, these higher lows would be an interesting zone, right? After a major pump, You got the first higher lows after this slow uptrend to really consider an initial bounce, right? These higher lows would be interesting. Yeah, but nothing too major. We're still uptrending. Still uptrending here. Nothing too major. I need to see more information. Would be nice to reclaim these highs without claiming the lows. If we claim the lows here, I would be very skeptical of the bounce. I would see this as a potential initial move to the downside in a 5-wave structure. But if we maintain that higher low, then it's good. It's bullish. There are many examples here of this kind of movement before we got a dump. Where do we have some? Yeah, a good example would be this one. And we did talk about this back in the day. This was more of a contracting diagonal right over here, as you can see. So you do form 5 waves down, and this does look bullish. However, you form a 5-wave structure, even though it's a little bit hidden. It was a very, very interesting scenario that we did take into consideration the short after getting to these highs, based on this contracting move to the downside. If you see that stream from the 26th of March, 27th or 26th of March, we talked about this possible scenario to get a kind of an ABC to the downside. So, I mean, this is on the higher time frame. This is the 1 hourly time frame. This is why if we do form 5 peaks to the downside, either in an expanding move or a contracting move, it doesn't matter here on the very local time frame. That is the moment where you can really speculate on a possible sign of weakness. And you would want to see that bounce. So you want to see that low, lower high, low, lower high, low. And then the bounce could be interesting after sweeping up these lower highs to get that rejection. Possibly previous week high for the back test. Previous week high, which is this one. To then roll over. But we need another low, right? Then that bounce looks interesting for the short trade setup, right? So, but we want that bounce. We want another low and another bounce. Then you got a 5-wave move down here. And this area could be interesting to speculate on, right? And we're looking at 50% golden pocket zone, right? If you do create that low, to maybe then get the rejection down. And this is just to revisit the lows, right? Regardless, it might just visit the lows and then pump. Very possible, and it forms a larger 3-wave structure. This is very similar analysis that we made the other day with this movement down, right? The end game here, and this was provided also on the Legends last week, where, come down to revisit the lows in this kind of price action right over here. Okay, just to revisit the lows for a possible breakdown. And this price action was purely based because we got a first initial 5-wave move down, right? The idea of this movement, this was this trading range just last week. We had a 5-wave move down, and then the bounce actually formed a 3-wave structure and got rejected at 50% golden pocket zone to revisit the low, right? 50% was first, and then the golden pocket, and then the lows were revisited, but we just didn't get the breakdown. And if you don't get the breakdown, then you need to understand that this is a 3-wave structure, or it's part of a larger correction. If you do not break down, then that's the moment to get out, right? If you did get into a short. So, you do realize that the information that you get every time when you're scalping and day trading, you need to study very, very carefully. For the moment, it is a higher low. It is forming a higher low, a little bit aggressive. You did hit the 0.88 fib. We love 0.88s. Not my cup of tea here, if I'm honest with you, for a long trade right there. But we are uptrending, so that point of control of this range is holding very, very nicely. We got the point of control of this area that is holding muy bien, muy bien. That uptrend support and point of control is holding the game here. Let's go through the comment section, see what the people are saying. Well, try Norway, then you will never complain about tax. I think Norway is very, very high in tax, right? If I'm not mistaken. It's hard at the moment going in leverage. Getting stopped out. Not sure if anybody stopped out from a short. Not the greatest zone to get into a short at the moment. We are uptrending still. There's no sign of weakness. We need a bit of more information. Unless you sniped. The only short trading setup there has been, is the 0.88 touch. You know, you'll be better set off speculating on longs in an uptrend at the lows than actually trying to short anywhere in this zone. Especially if you revisit these highs, it's going to be looking pretty okay for the price to gain that momentum again. So yeah, as mentioned, for the short, any type of short here, we had to revisit the lows, and then the pump to this area would have been interesting to analyze for the potential short. But this is uptrending, and this is very three wavy. So, you know, there's shorting anywhere in this area is extremely dangerous. There's no reason for the shorts. There's no reason, right? 0.88 is a reason for a short. Forming a 5-wave structure and bouncing is a reason for a short at the 50% to the 7/8 Fibonacci zone. Especially if you're back testing the previous week high, for example. That is a possible reason. But you need the bearish structure first of all. And we do not have any bearish structure in this uptrend. Especially with this movement down that's looking very three wavy for the moment, till proven otherwise, till we form another wave down, right? So with that conclusion, you would come to the idea that you're going to revisit the highs again. Crypto Guardians, peace, legend, I have to shoot. Trade safe. Protect your money, says Pac-Man. Thanks, Andy. Pac-Man, much love to you, brother. We are getting the pump here on Bitcoin. We are claiming those highs and the VWAP, where we could be getting a small little local reaction here. Let's go to the lower time frame. Pumping nicely. Very aggressive long here, I have to say. This is not my style to long down here at the 0.88 as we're moving down. A bit aggressive, but it's already pumping almost $1,000 from that pivot. Not part of my strategy. Not part of my strategy. VWAP right now, getting a bit of a reaction. This lower high could form a little bit of an SFP. But it would be interesting to get a rejection here, because then this confirms that all of this movement is a three-wave structure, at least in this short term, right? Let's go through the comment section. Shall we take a look at some altcoins? Easy pump, just bouncing at higher low support trend line and bouncing at the point of control of the range, right? Easy pump, easy support for Bitcoin, and just moving up here, getting a little bit of a reaction here at the VWAP. Bit aggressive, a bit aggressive for a short scalp, but for all of those aggressive traders out there. I bought it like 20 times. I DCA'd $134 till $100 and still holding. Need minimum 200 to 220 and I'm out big time. I'm not sure what you're talking about here. Oh, okay, about the long trade. Starting to pump, I meant the S&P 500. Super chat, Andy, thanks. Let's take a look at the super chat here from RMVR3. I did take a look at this. A realistic target for Umbrella for this cycle, thanks. Let's go right away. Umbrella did get a little bit of a pump. Umbrella Network, one of the high risk cryptos, but if you are looking for a possible 40-50x, and this is an OG crypto, right? This is an old cryptocurrency, but they're still working and developing. It is an oracle, and oracles will be needed if we are going to connect the real world data with blockchain technology to verify, right? You know, you have to give them a chance in the space. Of course, there will be new oracles. There will be better oracles every time, right? New projects, but realistic target for Umbrella. I mean, as this is a low cap coin, and it's a long time since we haven't seen, right, a big, massive altcoin season, guys. But when it happens, it can blow your socks off, right? A realistic target for Umbrella, I mean, would have to be getting above these highs, these lower highs, right, from the last few years. And that's already a 10x from current price levels, right? That's already a 10x. But if it does break successfully from this zone, well, eventually, you know, we're looking at 10 cents, 20 cents. You know, the all-time high for this one was, it was actually above $2 once it launched. And now it's like dead. But the team are working, they are developing. It's a working project. You just need to give it time, right? You need to give it time. It's dipped beneath the lows here, and these usually bring you the best buying opportunities when you dip below a base. This is when people throw the towel, right? This is the moment where you're like, I'm out. You know, it's a bad project. It's going to be dead. Of course, a lot of them do die off, right? But when I do take a look at ADA, for example, I mean, just looking at the charts from the previous cycle, and you realize when you dip below the base of the bear market, when you've had a massive crash after a cycle, right? Multi-year crash, you realize that when you have a base, and if you dip below the base, you know, that usually brings you the best buying opportunity. When you've come from a brutal bear market already, it's kind of the last stages. So if we were, you know, in a proper altcoin season, almost everything pumps. Almost everything pumps in a proper altcoin season. It was pretty crazy on the previous cycle. Everything was pumping. It was everybody's a genius season, right? Everybody's a genius when everything's pumping. It's like you can buy whatever crap you want. It's going to pump, right? So, you know, eventually with that conclusion, you understand that, you know, this is a pretty interesting buying zone. This is up 100% already in the last week. Last 2 weeks, actually. But realistic target is claiming the lower highs, right? That's first major target. That's already a 10x. And if it breaks from that in the next coming months, then you want to leave a moon bag, right? You always want to leave a moon bag. But that would be the first target zone, at least. Staying real, okay? We never know. You know, some of these altcoins can do a 50x. They can do a 100x. But let's stay real and grounded, and we want to claim some lower highs, and that's a 10x. You know, let's stay grounded. That's where you would want to take some profits eventually, right? Just like Constellation.app. I remember I got a lot of hate. Constellation.app or 𝗬𝗨 Network, right? 𝗬𝗨 Network is a beast, guys. This has to be one of the top-notch projects made in US. I see this one really doing well. Really doing well. Of course, it's having pump and dumps, classic pump and dump from, new crypto projects. But I remember saying to a lot of people about selling at the highs here, and I was getting, a 4x in crypto is nothing, right? 4x is ridiculous in crypto. You might as well hold on for the bull market. And yeah, well, the main reason why we had these major targets is you realize the hype and you realize the possible rejection from a high to come back down to the lows, to the base. At this base, I do see 𝗬𝗨 Network being a very good buy. And 𝗬𝗨 Network is made in US, very active project. They do have VCs, and it's just trying to cover almost, I'm not saying all of the niches, but almost everything. Make sure to do your research on 𝗬𝗨 Network, Oracle, Layer 2, Deepin, Rollup, AI agents, AI framework, made in USA. So if there's a mid-low cap, well, you could consider this as a low cap. Altcoin that's in AI, right? AI is the hot thing, right? This is one of them. If you want to look for a realistic 10x potential to go to $1 billion plus market cap, this for me is the one. This for me is the one. And it's at very, very good buying levels, right? We really like to detect these altcoins. I did an altcoin video today, guys. Didn't get too much love. Most of the people are here for Bitcoin, but we transitioned back in November. No, it was actually sooner than that. In September, October of 2024, we transitioned from day trading setups and analysis on Bitcoin to really focus on the high potential of making quick gains in the next coming weeks. So we will be following up some altcoins, the ones that I'm looking at basically in the next coming weeks, to see the greatest buying potentials, the corrections that could happen, and analyzing very carefully these 4 or 5 picks that I have, because I don't need 100 altcoins. I want 4 or 5 picks. I'm going to put significant capital in, and once I flip it, 3-4 exit, right, I will take my initial investment, my profits, and we will leave a moon bag, right? Just like we did here. Anyway, let's go right away. The alts are holding up though. Yeah, altcoins seem like they're doing pretty good. We did have the Bitcoin dominance getting a little bit of a dip throughout the last week, which is looking okay, but I have to say, this is still heavily uptrending, right? It's still heavily uptrending. I would expect the Bitcoin dominance to collapse at some stage. Been waiting to collapse for the last few months. I do see that happening, at some stage in the next coming months, right? It has to happen. It has to happen. There will be that speculation, and we got our initial signs, which is Ethereum. I should have flipped some of my Bitcoin into Ethereum here, actually. Ethereum is my third holding, largest holding in my portfolio. I only bought 5 Ethereum here in this pullback, but it was just for the channel, right? I think DCAing into Ethereum or getting into a swing long with low leverage, right? Be ready, right, to basically make a position here. Was the greatest option, considering that we have the point of control of the last 2 years, and this move counts better as a corrective move. There was no impulsive move down here, especially this one right over here. It's a 3-wave structure. So when you have a 3-wave structure from the correction here of all-time high, and you do not move impulsively, because if this were to be an impulse, you have a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It didn't happen. So you start thinking of corrections. You have a zigzag, another corrective move here, and a zigzag right over here. And then you have your flat. So it was a perfect scenario to DCA in this zone or get into a long position. I do have a massive bag on Ethereum. So, I just didn't want to buy much more, right? It's just, But for the sake of the channel, for especially the newcomers, this is a good zone to start DCAing on Ethereum once you lose this level, right? When you lose this kind of support, this is, and you have that major bad news and, all of the S&P 500 with that collapse down, right? Throughout the last a couple of months, right? We got, when we saw the, the tariffs with China and the rest of it, we saw a big, massive drop on the stock market of over 20% in a matter of a few weeks, and it was extreme panic mode. And this is the moment, we lost the base here. Just realize when you lose a major support level, when you've been downtrending for a long time, if we lose this level, then it's game over, right? Well, no, it's the moment to DCA. It's the moment to buy up the massive fear. And we talked about that as soon as we lost $2,000. We said we're DCAing below $2,000, regardless of swing long position with low leverage or buying the Ethereum, because being aware that the highest probability is that this is going to bottom out and it's going to get a big fat reversal, which is happening, right? So go Ethereum. And with this pump on Ethereum, it gives us the initial stages of an altcoin season, right? Ethereum is the leader, right? You must have seen this in a lot of places right now. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, even in the previous cycle, right? But this is like the main thing, right? Bitcoin first. Bitcoin's almost at all-time high. Then Ethereum gets its first initial legs to the upside. In the cycle last year, it was Solana. So Solana did take the place of Ethereum here. But it wasn't the real cycle. Now we are getting Ethereum that is outperforming many of the L1 projects for the moment. And that's when we need to understand that the next coming months, we're going to see some high caps, mid caps, really, really taking off. But what is most important, we need to understand Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin needs to behave. Bitcoin needs to behave here. If Bitcoin doesn't behave and it gets that pullback of 5 to 10%, then we understand that altcoins will correct down, but it might give us the great opportunity before altcoin season goes crazy, right? Especially entering into the summer. It's like when we enter into the summers are usually not that volatile. I mean, it can be. We've seen other summers being volatile in crypto cycles. 𝗕𝗶 coin is doing awesome. 𝗕𝗶 coin, do you know the story, my story of 𝗕𝗶 coin? Maybe some new subscribers here. Oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Ascending, broadening wedge, which most believe is bearish. It's basically an expanding diagonal here. And 𝗕𝗶 is looking absolutely awesome on the chart. This formed a 5-wave expanding diagonal here. Very steep correction. Very common for your corrective move to get down to the 4th wave, right? How many times we talk about this on the channel? Very common to get to your 4th wave and find the base to then move to the upside. So overall, 𝗕𝗶, it's pumped. I would really wait for a consolidation. If it is going to rally like crazy and continue the hype, you have danger here right now. It's much better waiting for some kind of a corrective pullback and then analyze that situation. And that will be the moment to step in, understanding the correction. Right now, big hype to the upside on these coins. And, it's just really not kind of worth it. Especially with this choppiness, not worth it. I think we're going to have to be patient here for a week or two. I don't think we're going to rock it and do another 100% pump on 𝗕𝗶. There will be some corrections at some stage. And when we consider the first leg up, this is the first leg up, and the most powerful leg to the upside is usually the 3rd wave. So, in my opinion, there will be time. The 3rd wave is the one that's going to absolutely fly, right? That's the one that you're looking for to fly right there. I mean, if you do consider, you know, when you do get this correction right over here, right, you got this wedgie move to the downside, and you got your first initial breakout, right? So you get a big pullback down, and you get your first leg breakout to the upside. You know, you want to see that pullback down. You want to see some kind of a pullback, and then the third wave is the one that really rockets, right? So I would like to see this, especially where Bitcoin is, and understanding that Bitcoin can get that pullback. It can get the pullback here in the next coming weeks. The altcoins will follow the pullback. Most of the altcoins will follow that pullback. So, you know, we are interested in that pullback. Yeah, regardless if this is a multiple 1-2 or not, it doesn't matter. 1-2, 1-2, 3. It might chop here in 4-5s, but regardless, you're looking for that pullback. And we are interested in this wave over here. So this is the first wave after the correction. This corrective move is what we need to analyze very carefully. Look for some resistance support flips, analyze the correction if we have a 3-wave structure or a double zigzag or whatever. There will be time. This will develop in the next 1 to 2 weeks at some stage, and it won't be it will highly likely be up only, right? It will unlikely be up only, right? This is why I put on a thumbnail just a couple of days yesterday, I think, actually, for the live. Up only is not the option, right? You know, we will get the pullback after the first initial leg. We are interested in the third leg up. So we need to be a little bit patient here. Do not FOMO into the, especially on 𝗕𝗶𝗴𝗴, and especially understanding where Bitcoin is at the moment after forming a possible 5-wave move to the upside, right? So yeah, we want to be cautious, guys, on jumping on these coins that have pumped very aggressively, because these will get the pullbacks of 20-30%. I'm not sure how much 𝗕𝗶𝗴𝗴 pumped in the last few days, but I'm sure it's been, yeah, 100%. So you cannot be surprised of 20-30% pullbacks on this. And that's the moment that we want to be ready, right? I will be focusing on some altcoins in the next coming weeks, just to give the best entry options with lowering the risk, right? Because people that don't do technical analysis, and I'm only going to focus on a few altcoins that I'm looking for a realistic reward, just like Constellation DAG and Fowler Network and some other ones that we mentioned, you know, throughout October, November, before the pump in 2024, just to make sure that people enter at the right moment, right? And don't enter when you're going to see a lot of social media right now, either X, YouTube, altcoin season, let's jump in, buy this, buy that. And when it's been pumping very aggressively in the last few days, right? If you didn't buy in the last few weeks. So you want to try and, you know, be sensible, right? Be sensible. And, you know, most likely some kind of a pullback, regardless if it goes to slightly higher levels, will happen. And we can detect if it is going to be a corrective structure, right? Or a wedge or whatever. Keeping it simple, right? A descending wedge is fine. We know that they're very corrective kind of price actions. To then really say, this is the moment, guys, right? This is the moment. We want to get into these different coins. 𝗕𝗶𝗴𝗴 is the one, definitely. You know, I actually bought 𝗕𝗶𝗴𝗴 when it was launched and made over a 20x. I put $1,000 and made $20,000. If I would have held on, I would have made, you know, over a 60x or so. You know, I do have those streams where I say somebody talked about 𝗕𝗶𝗴𝗴 on a stream 2 years ago, right? This was in, I think this was April of 2023. Yeah, I think it was April of 2023 when 𝗕𝗶𝗴𝗴 launched, somewhere around about there, right? March, April 2023. And I bought right over here just a few days when it launched and held on here for quite a long time, but sold, you know, most of it on this movement. You know, should have put more money into this, right? The main reason I bought this meme coin is because I thought, wow, Pepe is such a legendary meme and it's the only coin. This has to be the original one. Well, you know, let's put a bit of play money. And holy moly, this has been the best altcoin that I bought in this cycle with the biggest returns, but I only put $1,000. So anyway, it's just part of the story, right? Part of the story. He said, what if I would have put, you know, $100,000, right? Or 50,000. You know, you always have that thing, you know, you always think like that. Legends, I need to rush it up, right? I need to rush, guys. I need to go and pick up my dogs. They're at the summer camp. They're at a hotel. My dogs, yes. Much love to everybody. I'm going to leave right now. I will take a look at some altcoins tomorrow. Andy, I watched your videos for a few hours ago. What is the main reason for maintaining MENA there? Yeah, MENA protocol is an altcoin that I want to talk about. MENA protocol is awesome. I think it's going to bring insane returns as well. You know, when you take a look at the chart, it's the best example of a cryptocurrency that has come down beneath the bear market lows, which is the kind of spring point. It's when people throw the towel. This is done, right? This crypto is done. Well, this usually brings the best opportunity. This is like Rune, guys. I do hold some Rune. It's still actually in a loss, but look at this one. OM, which is mantra. OM, which is mantra, I think also is bringing a great opportunity. I did talk about this one for the last few months after it collapsed here, that we're very likely going to form a base. We did form a base. It bottomed out and it's already up 100%, right? In the last, last couple of weeks, right? OM, I think right now with this pump, do you want to buy the pump? I mean, it's still relatively soon. Rune is an awesome project. They just had some issues. OM, the same thing. OM is an awesome project. They just had a liquidity crunch, which is why, you know, this main rally was purely bought with, you know, mainly leverage, right? And I think that this one is going to recover. It's found a base. It got the drop. And this has found a very, very solid base. Just getting down below this low. First initial pumps. I think this one is going to recover massively. Massively. Anyway, legends, thank you very much for joining. I'll be back with another live stream tomorrow. Stay safe. Thank you very much. And I'll see you in the next one.